we sync the changes on Bravo on the website. So now we're gonna hit in Bravo Vision. This is important because sometimes it won't sync automatically. So we're gonna hit sync here. All right, so now we see the buttons are showing up nicely and on top of the backdrop that we added. So again, we can play here with the opacity and all the design aspects, but yeah, we have our page built up and ready to be populated with data. So now we know that we can connect the title, the date, the location, the host information, the description, and also populate who is attending. So that's nice. Now, one more thing that we might want to do now is we want to make this the starting point of our app. So right now it's always going to the detail page. So now I'm going to share again. And now if we sync the changes, it should navigate us directly to the homepage. Yeah, there we go. So now if I tap on this event, it takes me to the page. Now I tap on the back arrow, it takes me back. Okay, so everything is in place for in order to be connected to the data. So let's go back to where Toby left off. So we have the endpoint to get the events being hosted, right? So let's get first the list of all events. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create the API. So we're gonna copy the endpoint here. And now here we wanna go to data. We're gonna create a new collection and we're gonna start from scratch. Or we could use the Xano wizard. So this is gonna be our events. All right, so this is gonna be events list. So let's say home events, all events. So as you add more endpoints, you wanna make them as descriptive as possible. So another thing I do is I usually add emojis because when we have like 30, 40 endpoints, that gets messy. So one question, Toby, did you add the authentication to the endpoints or not?
Yes, so they're authenticated.
Okay, so
use settings from authentication. Yeah.
So what we're doing here is basically we're setting the same authentication configuration in Bravo in our API, so we can test, right? So otherwise, we wouldn't be able to get a response from the endpoint. So now I'm gonna hit send. It's gonna ask me to log in. I'm gonna log in. So this is basically mimicking what would happen in the app. So now we should get a code. All right, success. So now we can go back and yeah, this will show up. It will go away, or you can hit send again. So now we're getting all the events here. So now we need to select all the data that we want to show. So in this case, it's already pre-cleaned up. We're going to select all. So this is the array of events. So we're going to select the ID because we'll need this to tell Bravo which event to show in the detail page. And for any other operations with this data, we're going to need the event name, the description. Then we're going to need the location and the user ID. Now, what we can see here is that we might need some more data from this. So Toby, what do you think? So for example, for the start date, we would need it in a human readable format, right?
Yeah. So
and this user is the host, right?
Yeah, that's the user as the host. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And what I'm doing is I'm creating another endpoint, which gets you the detail for the event, which gives you that plus all the attendees.
Perfect. Nice. Okay, so we have selected the data that we're going to show in our homepage. Let's say this is, let's rename all the variables so they are, so we can reference them easily later, but also we need to make sure that the variables that we're going to be passing to different screens in our app, they need to be named in the same way. So our ID here is our event ID. So we're going to name it event ID. So any other instance of a variable of event ID, we need to name in the same way. Otherwise, the connection won't work in our app. Then this is going to be event name, event description, event location. And this is going to be the host, but actually I don't think we need it at this point because we don't need to show that data. So at this point, this is all we're showing. So an image, title, timestamp, and the location. Then this is going to be, in this case, is going to be the same user image that would be the host of this event, but this would be, I think this would be better retrieved in another endpoint, which is the me or the profile endpoint. So for now, let's actually delete this one. And if we need it later on, we can get back to it. Right, so now we're going to come to our app and we want to bind the container. So we want to bind the container, which is wrongly named as category slide because I didn't change any layer name. But we're going to connect it to our home all events endpoint. This is the data. And now this would be the title. So again, here we will need to name every layer an element in a way that we can recognize. So this is going to be connected. This is going to be connected to our name. This is going to be, we don't have the date in a human readable format, but what we're going to do is
do you want me to add that? I mean, I can do it pretty fast. I guess you probably want it.
I mean,
let's try to work out where you need it. I guess you probably want it on the event list, don't you? Because you need to show the date of that. And when you want the date, you just want like Friday, 10th of May, 2025, something like that. What format would you want it to?
So let's look at how it's shown here. So Tuesday, September 2nd, and a time as well.
Okay. Give me let me try and do that then.
Okay, well, you do that. I'm gonna simply, so we want to select, we didn't select the date, so we're gonna call the endpoint again, and now you see here start date time. We want to select that. Toby is working on changing this into a human readable date format, so then the value will change, but the variable will stay the same. So that means that we can already say that this is the event date, and let's go ahead and connect it. So you see it open up here. So again, it won't make any sense when we preview this in the app right now, but after Toby's made the change, it will be updated automatically, which is pretty cool. So here, this is going to be our location, and then we're missing the image. So sometimes you're going to see, in this case, we have two layers. So one is basically the overlay, and the other one is the actual image that sits at the bottom. A common mistake is to actually bind this one. So that's something that I see a lot of. So you want to make sure, because if you come here and you click on this one, it's going to select the overlay. So you want to come here and select this. And there's another one that we need. So we need the image. So an event needs a cover image.
That's a good idea. Okay, let me. Yeah, okay. I'll add a field. I'll go for that.
Okay, well, he works on that. We're gonna build the upcoming and hosted by me filter. So right here. So let's say this is gonna be a filter, and we should something like, and we have any icon here that we can use. So anyways, I won't be using any icons, but we need to make sure that this is showing up as a button. So let's make it underlined for now. So there are several ways that we could do this. So I'm thinking out loud right now. So the easiest way to actually do this could be to make it a remote action. So that means that when, or actually set variable. Toby, maybe I can get your input here. So I'm thinking basically we have this button that is going to change the list of events from upcoming to hosted by me, right?
Okay, yeah. So set variable is perfect for that. So you can have a drop down.
Set variable, right?
Yeah, drop down probably. You attach to the input tag, and it will then set that variable, and then we passed in all the requests going forward after that point.
Perfect. So that you will need to add to the endpoint node.
The other thing you could, the other way of doing it would be a stateful component, which was, but I suppose you need to just submit after that. So no, I think set variable is probably the best thing to do. Okay, so you want me to add that to the...
Yeah, so add an input, right? That is upcoming, and another one that is hosted, or how would you do it?
I'm just getting this here right. I'm just getting the timing right. So September the 13th, and then the time. And so let's get this time.
Okay. Yeah, so I will explain this bit while you do that, and then we can see how that's on the endpoint. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the set variable. So basically, that is recently new, like a recent tag that Bravo added. It's pretty powerful because you can pretty much from the front end set a value for a variable. So and that means that it will call the endpoint with a specific value that you're given from the front end, and you can make all sort of things with that. So in this case, it's going to be useful because we want to tap on this, and then we will show some kind of drop down. When the user taps on the drop down, it will send a variable to the endpoint saying show only the events that are hosted by me. So that will basically return the different set of events. So I think that can be the best way to do it.
You want to try it? So I've added the time in now. So you've got an extra field.
Okay.
Which
okay.
So if you go to the requests, you'll have an extra field that will...
So it's a new one. Okay.
Yeah. You should get a new field, which is start time text.
Perfect. So then I will deselect this one because this is the one we want. And then we also have the image, which right now is null because there's no data there.
Actually, let me, if I add an image, then is there an image, some stock images?
You can go to Unsplash.
Yeah, okay, let's have a look.
So we are renaming the variables. We have selected the 2 new variables that Toby added, and now we can review the binding. So in this case, yeah, we're gonna bind the image, new one to be added, and then this one we had connected to the previous timestamp, but that wasn't readable. So Toby added a new variable, so we're gonna select it, which is event time. Okay, so that's good. Now let's go back to. I don't think the set variable is in the plugin.
Right, it might not be in the plugin.
Okay.
It is in the documentation. So if you do
it. Yeah. So in the documentation, we can see you can go through everything. Everything is pretty well explained. So in this case, we want to make an action and set a variable. So what we are going to need is the set variable, and we'll go through the rest in a bit. So this is going to be our filter. So our text here is going to be the button. We can make it nicer by adding a wrapper, some fill behind the text to make it look like a button. But yeah, we're going to add this action set variable, and now what's going to happen? Actually, sorry, this is actually gonna trigger the drop down, and the drop down is gonna have the option. So for now it's upcoming and hosted by me, we said. So what we want to have here is maybe a model, or I think a model can work for now. We come here, we say models, and now let's go with the fixed size. So this is gonna show smaller model. So I think this is good for what we need. And let's say this is our filter model, and now we're gonna have a text saying select an option for now, and then here we're gonna have one option which is upcoming, and another option which is hosted by me. We can make this as nice as we want. For now, I'm gonna go with a very simple button fill. This is pretty crappy, but actually we're gonna wrapper around this, so Bravo picks it. Okay, so I'm gonna make this a bit smaller.
Can they choose both the options, or are they mutually exclusive? Is it either upcoming, or is it upcoming and hosted by me?
So it's either upcoming or hosted by me.
That's okay.
So now what we need is this upcoming filter. When they tap, it will pop up the model, and then going back to our set action set variable tag, we want to add it here. So each of these options will set a variable. value. So this is going to be our hosted by me filter, and this is going to be my upcoming filter. Now let's sync these changes with Bravo and see what's the next one there. In the meantime, checking in, Toby, what are you up to?
I'm just trying to build the functionality to handle upcoming or hosted by me, so that you can you can just pass that as, I guess that would just be like an active or default or true or false. You can set the value, right? So let's say true or false maybe.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, I'm gonna share my phone screen so we can see if it works.
1 second. Okay, so it's hosted by me.
All right, so yeah, I was about to share my phone screen so we can see how the filter from the front end part of the filtering is gonna come together. So I'm gonna tap on upcoming, and well, we can see, so the model slides up in a nice way. But yeah, we can work on the design here, but yeah, we can see that some text is cut off, so we'll fix that. And now what we need to implement when Toby will finish the endpoint is basically when I tap on hosted by me, for example, that will call the endpoint, this endpoint that is showing the list of events, and it will give it different value for an input that will make it return only the events hosted by the logged in user. So let's try to fix for now the text cutting off. So it's usually a good practice to give it some room. Might be that we haven't added the Poppins typography to our account. So if you see this happening, like some text being cut off or displaying weirdly, what you want to do is you want to come here and you want to go the fonts, and maybe you'll see that some fonts are missing or there's a mismatch, so you want to check that. If not, a good rule of thumb is to give it some breathing room here. Same with this and this, and now that should be good. So we can sync those changes and it will be effective right away. So let's try to see how that looks. We're gonna need to edit out a lot of the waiting times for phone to. Okay, so let's see how that looks. So now we see that the text is showing up nicely. Again, we should work out the text a bit better, but for now that will do. Now, if we actually look at our page here, we have this filter model, right, which is building. So we see some options here. So we see the set variable action configuration. So this is the variable name, and this is the value. And then we can define an action that will follow. So that means that whatever values Toby is configuring in the endpoint, we will need to pass along here. So we can go get into that in a bit. And then on success action, we can say go to page. So in this case, I think that makes sense because we want to go to the home screen again. So we're triggering this model, then the model pops up, and when you click on it on any of the options, you pass along the variables, and then on success, so that means that the list has been updated, we go to page and go to the home page. So we can set that, and once the endpoint is ready, we can implement these values. You let me know, Toby. In the meantime, I'm just trying to. I can go ahead.
Give me a couple more minutes, and I'm nearly done.
Yeah, sure.
Well, what I'm trying to do, maybe you can go ahead with the switching these things on. I'm basically setting up so that you call the event list endpoint with either an upcoming or hosted by me variable, which is either true or false. Okay.
Yeah. So that means that we want to add the query parameters here. So you can do that by adding the parameters directly on the URL, or you can add it different way to it here. So you know the exact input you're going to use?
Yeah, so it's upcoming is one word, and that can be true or false.
Yep.
And the other one is hosted _ me.
Okay, right. So these are the inputs that the endpoint needs. So those are the inputs that Toby is adding right now. And this is the variable that we're gonna define in Bravo. So I assume it's not ready yet, so we're not gonna test, but we now have the parameters here showing up nicely.